Welcome to Tuesday Talks. I'm Seema Kumar, CEO of Cure, and today we're talking about AI and how it's changing the world and shaping the future of medicine. My guest today is Dr. Alex Zhavoronkov. He's a CEO and founder of Insilico Medicine, which is a clinical stage AI-powered drug discovery company founded in 2014. Insilico developed an end-to-end platform called Pharma.ai, which processes massive amounts of data, including human, chemical, and clinical trials data, to identify new targets for diseases, design actually new molecules, drug-like molecules from scratch, and predict the likelihood of clinical trial transitions where actually most drug development fails, as we know. Under Alex's leadership, Insilico has raised more than $400 million in multiple rounds and opened R&D centers in 6 countries and regions, partnering with top pharma, biotechnology, and academic institutions. Insilico Medicine is actually part of the Cure ecosystem, and it's an affiliate of Deerfield Management, which has a financial interest in Insilico Medicine. Most recently, Insilico was in the news about their latest licensing deal with Exelixis for a novel cancer drug for BRCA-mutant tumors found in breast, ovarian, pancreatic, and prostate cancers. Most on this exciting news later, but first, let's get down to it. Hi, Alex. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Seema. Very pleased to be with you today.
So we know you have offices all over the world. Where are you joining us from today?
So today I'm joining from the Middle East, from Abu Dhabi, Masdar city in Abu Dhabi, very neutral, wonderful country and city. Even though we are kind of in a little bit of a geopolitical turmoil nowadays, we continue working and trying to save lives by discovering and developing effective therapeutics.
Well, utmost admiration for, your commitment to continuing to saving lives and working. Hopefully you're in a safe place, and then glad to hear you're in a neutral place. And we're all sending thoughts and prayers to the whole region, as you know, to make sure that we continue to aspire for peace and safety for people. Let's get back into medicine and your work. So fascination. You have a fascination with studying aging, even as a young boy in Latvia. So tell me a little bit about your personal journey from Latvia to Canada to today, and what inspired you to start Insilico?
Sure. Thank you. So as mentioned, I was born in Riga in Latvia. I grew up there, and for my university, I came to Canada, did my 2 bachelor degrees there, worked for a number of semiconductor companies, lately ATI Technologies. It's GPU, general purpose graphics processing units. Those are the semiconductors that are powering deep neural networks and generative AI today. Mm-hmm. I had a really wonderful career there, and once became a Canadian citizen. Once I realized that I have enough funding to go after my lifelong dream, which is identifying new ways to extend healthy, productive longevity for everybody. And that's kind of my main objective function. Decided to go after this dream. Went to Johns Hopkins, did my grad work there, worked in a lab. Then worked for a number of biotechs related to age-associated diseases. And then during the cusp of the deep learning revolution, so that was 2013, when deep neural networks started outperforming humans in image recognition, voice recognition, text recognition. You probably remember this time. So yes. Deep learning scientists were treated like football players with $1 million salaries. So it was actually very difficult to hire back then, but I found a few people and formed a group. So we originally started the company in 2014, in early 2014, in Baltimore at the Emerging Technology Centers. And then over the years we scaled, so hope to tell you about this journey. And scaled all around the world, ensured that we also have a stable base in Asia to be able to synthesize and test AI-generated drugs. And now we're a truly global company. We have two headquarters. So one is at the Cure. Very happy to be a resident, and anybody listening to this point, make sure that you get a tour of that place. And we have another headquarters in Hong Kong to ensure that we supervise a very large number of contract research organizations that are synthesizing chemistry, testing our biology, and ensuring that the molecules that we generate are of highest quality.
That's great. What, oh my God, what an incredible journey you've had. It's just, blows my mind. And by the way, I have a huge heart for Baltimore because that was my first city that when I came to America and immigrated to America, that was the city that I came into. So, you are actually now about to go to the European Society for Medical Oncology Conference, or ESMO, in Madrid, right? Where you're going to be focused on cancer, and because, that's an oncology meeting and that's the largest part of Insilico's pipeline. So tell me a little bit about how Insilico develops new cancer drugs. How are you doing that?
So sure. Well, very happy to be part of most of the oncology conferences today, both preclinical and clinical. That's one of the very substantial focus of Insilico. So the way we go after our drug discovery efforts is, again, we look end to end. So we start from target discovery and looking at very large amounts, massive amounts of biological data. We have a tool called PandaOmics. It's part of our Biology 42 platform that is actually commercially available. So a lot of people like to use this tool for target discovery. We use it internally. So this tool allows you to very rapidly identify targets, rank them by kind of three main parameters: novelty, confidence, and commercial tractability. So it's not just one score. There is no single way to discover a target. We implement over 60 philosophies for target discovery in this tool, 22 deep learning models and many generative models on biological and text data. So we find this optimal balance between novelty, confidence, and commercial tractability for a target, prioritize several. Then we perform target validation experiments. Sometimes the target is already in the public domain, so we know that there is some evidence that is going to be effective, and maybe it's going to get caught in the next few years, right? So some of those targets are made for out licensing. And then we engage our chemistry AI engine. So we pioneered generative chemistry. My first paper in generative AI as a senior author was in 2016, utilizing generative adversarial autoencoders for generation of small molecules with the desired properties. Multiple papers published, so you can actually also subscribe to this tool and buy it. So most of our AI platforms are commercially available, so we also provide software. And we use the same software that's commercially available called Chemistry 42 that allows you to generate small molecules with the desired properties for the targets that you identified using PandaOmics and prioritized. And then we synthesize those molecules. We do the biological testing, so enzymatics, cell-based assays, then go into animals, complete massive numbers of preclinical experiments, and then we nominate preclinical candidate. So usually that's kind of a PhD defense. You need to demonstrate that you went to a single molecule that is intended to go into humans. You already have a lot of toxicity data, so that's basically one notch before clinical. We usually announce at this point and make this program usually available for review by big pharmaceutical companies and medium-stage pharmaceutical companies that might want to license it out. And we go and start working on IND-enabling studies, so to ensure that it's safe and the regulator would allow you to go into human clinical trials in different geographies. And then we usually either partner at this point or submit the application for the phase 1 human clinical trial and run the phase 1. Usually we run more than one geography. and we ensure that the data that comes from this phase 1 would be acceptable by the FDA and the NMPA in China. So we also try to go to geographies. And then we open the data rooms again for big pharmaceutical companies and medium-stage biotechs for review. At that time, if they don't license, we go phase 2. Because some of the targets that we have are very novel, and novelty and the ability to license early go kind of in the opposite directions. So pharmaceutical companies really like to have a lot of confidence, even though they might claim that they want novelty. And once the program is maximal at the risk, you license out. So this deal with Exelixis that you mentioned is a testament to the quality of the programs. We just went into phase 1 and managed to license it out for $80 million upfront with milestones and royalties. And that's actually our second licensing deal of this type. In the past,
we'll come back to the Exelixis one in a minute or two, but congratulations on that. But let me ask you about your lead drug. This is currently in phase 2 trials with patients. So what does it mean for you and for the industry to have advanced an AI-designed drug to this stage? I mean, that's phenomenal.
I think it's a very substantial milestone that sets a very high bar for many other companies to achieve. So generative AI just very recently got consumerized and popularized, but it's not new. Again, generative adversarial networks were first published 2014. Then my first paper was 2016, and then we published dozens of papers in generative adversarial networks and transformers. So we started using generative end-to-end. And unlike many other companies, we actually do have evidence for that, because nowadays, due to the generative boom, suddenly companies that were saying that, oh, we're not deep learning in 2017, then they suddenly became AI. And then 2022 hits and they suddenly became generative. So in our case, we do have a lot of evidence that we have been pioneering this field for a very long time. My first paper with experimental validation came out in 2018. In 2017, we did the experiments. That was a selective JAK3 inhibitor. And then 2018, we performed a very important experiment that in 2019 was published on Nature Biotechnology, where we used generative tensorial reinforcement learning system to generate small molecules in record time. So in 46 days, we synthesized 6 molecules. 2 of them were tested all the way into metabolic and microsomal stability assays. 1 went into mice. So a lot of people criticize that because they're saying, oh, but there is no POC. The molecules might not be too new, right? The target is not too new. So in 2019, we actually decided to go after an end-to-end program where we identify a novel target that has never been in a clinic before. So used pandomics to do that, found a high level of novelty and high level of confidence, but no clinical stage assets. Designed small molecules using generative AI. So we generated those molecules using a generative algorithm, and then tested all the way into phase 0. So we actually, since the target is new and the molecule is new, we wanted to ensure that we get at least some evidence on humans and some more information about this target. So we did a phase 0 study in 8 healthy volunteers in New Zealand. And then we did a proper phase 1. Phase 0 was in Australia. Then we did a proper phase 1. So part of the trial was done in New Zealand, over 70 patients, 70 volunteers, and over 40 volunteers in China. So demonstrated safety, got the green light to go phase 2. And now we're in phase 2 and actively recruiting. So to get to this level, you actually need to be not only good in AI, you also need to be great in execution, right? Because we also did it in a very short period of time. Again, you can see from the announcements in 2021 February, we nominated preclinical candidate after starting the program in 2019. Then in 2022, we completed we started phase 1, completed phase 0, and now we announced this summer that we went into phase 2. So I think it's a huge milestone. It requires a lot of guts, right? Because most of the AI companies that are focused just on the algorithm, they do not have this mission to go human. My mission is to get the drug approved. So we're still far from that, but closer than anybody else I know that uses generative AI.
That's great. Congratulations. And congratulations also on your exciting news. Let's get to that now. Your latest deal with Exelixis, as we spoke about, it's for a novel cancer drug for BRCA-mutant tumors, which are found, as we said, in ovarian, pancreatic, and prostate cancer. So tell me a little bit more about this deal and what made it such an attractive bet for Exelixis.
So sure. Well, first of all, this is our second deal of this type. So in 2021, we signed a deal with a company called Fosun Pharma, where they also in-licensed one of they licensed for co-development of one of the assets that we've developed to the lead stage. So just before preclinical candidate, together we nominated the preclinical candidate, and now it's in phase 1. That was the target called QPCTL. So we had some experience doing that. But we wanted to, from day one, when we started synthesizing and testing for our own programs, we decided to figure out a way to create ultra high quality programs. So we decided to focus on quality without sacrificing the speed. And we even went to Japan to learn how the Japanese do it, right? And learn the kind of Japanese high quality culture to ensure that when you open the data room, everything is of ultra high quality. And we also, in addition to our first program and the program that we licensed out as co-development, we partnered on as co-development. We also decided to create a portfolio of ultra high quality therapeutics that we can either take forward ourselves or license out. And one of the targets that we found was not exactly, so if I were to rank the novelty, I would say it's probably like 65% novel, right? So there is still risk that it's not gonna work as a therapeutic drug right at the end in humans, but there is already a lot of de-risking around the target. So there was already one company that was running ahead with the target, and we still decided, because the biological evidence that it's going to work was so huge, that we still decided to bet on something that, even though there was one front runner, and we decided to focus on ultra high quality, best in class chemistry. So without using the other companies' molecules as starting point, just from scratch, AI generated molecules, tested, took it all the way to preclinical candidate, announced, took it all the way to phase 1, announced, and Exelixis reviewed this molecule. They liked it. Exelixis, in my opinion, is one of the best cancer companies in the world. I've never met anybody so professional in medicinal chemistry and at the same time strategic vision. So we knew that this is the company that is likely to put this drug. So if there is somebody on the planet who can put it on patients, I'm talking about getting to approval, that's them, because they've just demonstrated exactly the same case when they put Cabo on the market. So it's a very, very famous company in this field, right? Because they went through many ups and downs, but got it to work. And now it's helping patients. It's almost standard of care in many diseases. So we thought that, this is the company we really want to work with. And when they looked at the chemistry of the molecule, they realized, again, great medicinal chemists, and very great business development people. So they very rapidly reviewed, analyzed, did the portfolio strategy assessment, and we negotiated, and they took the drug, which entered phase 1. So now, of course, they are going to be taking it over. They're transitioning. We got $80 million upfront. I can only talk about what has been disclosed in the in official press releases. As you know, in biotech, we have to be extremely conservative, and there are milestones and royalties. But I must say that again, if any of the startups are looking at this show right now, or any prospective employees, I think that Exelixis is just phenomenal. It's just the next level cancer company. So they demonstrated amazing professionalism, and we realized that they really care about data. So they're so data driven that they looked at every single element of the molecule, of the preclinical data, and that's what they cared about, right? So that really sped up the process. The deal was signed reasonably quickly, and right now they're progressing. So again, I cannot talk about anything that is not in the public domain, but I'm extremely impressed by the speed, the quality, and the level of the clinical team. So if somebody can put it on the market, that's them.
Well, congratulations again. So I want to ask you actually one more question about Insilico's pipeline. You're also focusing on aging-related diseases that includes fibrosis and central nervous system diseases, in addition to cancer. So how are you using AI to connect the dots between aging and disease?
Sure. That's probably my favorite question that a lot of people do not ask. So this is where my personal life's goal is very coherent and correlated with what AI can do for you in target discovery. And the maximum, I think that in order to unleash the maximum potential of generative AI, you have to focus on aging for one simple reason, because you have age, I have age, everyone has age. Everybody on the planet has age. It's one single feature that is very predictive of when you die and also when you are going to get certain diseases. So you don't see a lot of people with Alzheimer's running around when they're kids, right? So it is the accumulation of damage. It is massive, dramatic systemic effects that accumulate. And only with AI, you can really understand the fundamental biology in time. Biology does not stand still, it's in time. So from the very beginning, so one of the reasons I founded the company, I realized that if you train deep neural networks to predict age, just one single feature, on certain biological data types, such as gene expression, protein expression, for example, that changes in time. Think of it like music, right? So you've got a lot of different notes playing at any given point in time. Deep neural networks are very good at recognizing patterns once they are trained to predict just one single feature, this time point. Imagine that you have a deep neural net that is fed 20,000 genes to predict just one feature, age. So we started doing that, demonstrated the proof of concept. So our first paper in that was published 2016, but we started presenting 2015, demonstrating that we can now generalize in one data type and across data types. And then one other important feature about deep neural networks is that you can transfer the weights, right? So you can learn on one data type and on one problem, and then do transfer learning onto diseases, right? Or retrain the networks that are trained on age on diseases. So that's what we started doing with aging research in the very early days. So training on massive amounts of data that is annotated with age, and then retraining on smaller data sets that would not be compatible with deep learning just because there are so few of them on those massive deep neural networks. So now those deep neural networks started generalizing across aging and disease at the same time. Wow. So you can do personalized medicine better. You can now query these deep neural networks for specific targets. You can say, okay, well, now let's mutate one going in and see how it's going to affect the accuracy of the prediction of age and disease on two neurons. create
Wow.
those histograms, put them into biological pathways, and now we can find real targets that are causative, that are causal.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, you can see which targets are druggable, which ones are more commercially tractable. For that, we built Pandomics to be able to make those decisions. And one other feature that we realized is that for generative AI, if you want to create billions of patient profiles from scratch, you can now take those deep neural networks that are trained on age and say, well, here is a template for you. Here is me today. Make a billion of me in the future with me as a starting condition, but with different parameters and age as a generation condition. This is a huge idea, right? So you basically can create virtual population of me
just like
in the future.
Wowed by this. It's unbelievable. This is phenomenal. So when that happens and you can create sort of, that kind of a massive data set. I mean, one human being itself is a massive data set. So you take billions of such, informational bits and, and what can this all accomplish? Do you think you can prevent aging, or you can figure out how to prevent disease, or where do we get to with all this?
So some of the targets that we are prioritizing are the targets that are implicated in aging and disease at the same time. I think if you go after aging itself right away, you're going to lose money, because so far I have not seen a single longevity company going after a drug that was successful, right? Everything I've seen over the past 30 years failed. So you need to first create a very successful, commercially tractable business model in diseases in order to go after aging. So if you prioritize dual purpose therapeutics that are implicated in fibrosis, for example, and you have some evidence that is also targeting the critical aging pathways, well, that's great. You are going after a specific biological process that is driving a disease, and aging research along the way is free, right? So you basically accumulate more knowledge about this biological process, about this therapeutic program. And at the end, once you get approval, and also you start generating very substantial value, starting from the first validation experiments, and the value increases as you generate more evidence that the drug works in disease. So the net present value increases. Then at the end, you can actually purpose it towards aging and try measuring the effect on patients using aging clocks. So that is the idea for a sustainable longevity biotechnology company. If the drug works on aging, it should work in some disease. It's impossible for it to work on aging and not work on a disease, right? So you just need to figure out which disease is it going to be most effective in. There are some promising drugs on the market right now that have been approved 2 decades ago, right? Like, for example, rapamycin and many, many rapalogs, so to speak. So in the longevity community, that's kind of one of the most promising interventions that works in pretty much every animal model that has been tested, and except that it hasn't been tested in humans for aging, but millions of humans take it for other indications. And you can see that this particular drug, rapamycin, works in many, many diseases, including cancer, organ transplantation, immunomodulatory diseases, immunology. It works in many, many, in inflammation, maybe a senolytic. So, but for aging, it hasn't been tested, and it might take some time for it to be tested, because those trials are very expensive, and unless you have the aging research in mind from the very beginning, later, once the drug goes off patent, it's very difficult for you to commercialize it for aging, because technically it's off patent and anybody can buy a drug. So we want to ensure that we go after targets that are just focused on diseases as well. So just to ensure that, for many cancers, it's very difficult to find dual purpose therapeutic. But for many diseases that are age related, it is. And even some cancer targets, maybe dual purpose targets. Again, rapamycin is used in cancer as well. One of the most popular cancer targets as well, the mTOR.
Yeah, that's just extraordinary. It's wonderful. Not only are you thinking about, aging and the related disease, but then you're figuring out the right business model and the right biological strategy in order to do in a dual attack course. Finally, before we let you go, as you know, we launched the Innovation Challenge, which is a Cure Exchange Challenge that's focused on calling on all entrepreneurs and innovators who to like apply health AI for good. And you are one of the leading experts in AI. What kind of solutions do you think we can expect to see and ideas that would be exciting in your mind to see?
Well, I think there is an entire plethora of applications of AI for good. So from sustainable energy, we are, oh, by the way, also a player in that as well. So we are applying generative to different types of material design, to carbon capture, etc., just as a side project for ourselves. So we know that there it has huge promise. And there the idea is to make a material that would absorb carbon better than trees, for example. Boom, that would be huge, right? Especially cost effectively and very efficiently. So it can be applied to design of new fuels that are much more efficient, new gas combinations that allow you to do things that were previously impossible, like, for example, rapidly freeze and unfreeze something. That would be a really cool application, right? So very few people think about that, but I welcome any ideas in that area. It may be applied to industrial automation. So I see that generative AI and specifically agent-driven generative, where you can create kind of copies of humans for even basic decision making, and ensuring that now we can replace some human jobs and make them much more efficient using AI. By the way, replacing jobs, it's a good thing as well, because people can find a better application of themselves, right, to some other task. You don't want to be doing a task that can be easily done by robots. I think one of the very, very important applications, probably one of the most important applications, would be agriculture. So we partnered with a wonderful company called Syngenta, probably the global leader in sustainable agriculture. We made an announcement. So generative AI can help you develop better, more pest and environment-resistant crops. It can help you fight pests and the challenges presented by the environment using chemistry, green chemistry, or other approaches. Again, that's where generative AI can help you a lot, also just with instructions that you can take, all the way to chemistry design, autonomous driving, humanoid robotics. Humanoid robotics is, of course, extremely important application of AI, because many of the jobs that humans do are hazardous and involve dramatic stress. So we can probably replace some of humans in those high-risk professions. And of course, monitoring global security, global peace, right? I think that AI for peace is a very unexplored area, because if your objective function is peace, you might want to figure out how to avoid certain emotional and intellectual challenges that are being presented by the environment. So I think in order for us to achieve global health, we also need to achieve global peace. And of course, in medicine and biology, we are likely to solve many biological processes using AI. Again, what we are focusing on is aging and age-related diseases. We're trying to generate the fundamental understanding of human biology, going all the way to the quantum level. So you can simulate some of the biological processes from scratch instead of using patients at all. And in the ability to generate chemistry and biology for therapeutic applications, we've already demonstrated that's possible. So I would say those are some of the applications of AI that are low-hanging fruit. Of course, going forward, generation of new types of energy, for example, fusion and improvements in the ability to capture solar energy or geothermal. That's another huge application of AI, where it would take probably a little bit longer, but the impact is going to be much greater.
Well, thank you. That's just incredible. All kinds of things, and I think what the key message here, I think, is, of course, the AI for good is great, and it must be done responsibly. And human beings need to continue to be involved, and it's not to kind of let it run amok, right? Because that's the fear. And I want to just close on that note and get your quick answer on how can we make sure that we're doing this responsibly, and because there is valid concern about AI running amok, if you will.
So in my opinion, the only way AI can be harmful is if it's run by harmful people today. And we already see that with drones, with many kind of military applications, might be used for creating harmful viruses and possibly poisons. So you just need to ensure that bad people do not get access to the technology, or at least we know those people. And that, in my opinion, is the biggest danger. In terms of AI escaping and acquiring mind of its own to hurt us, well, if you subscribe to that, there is no solution. It will happen then, because the progress has become exponential. And in this case, you might want to kind of extend on the Pascal's wager. I hope you know what that means, right? It's a philosophical argument. So you might want to actually get and contribute to the creation of AI and creation of better AI to minimize the probability that it will go rogue, and also minimize the probability that it will kill you specifically. So if you want to stay safe, get into AI.
Yes, yes. And so you have to explain for the audience to make sure that everybody who may not know about Pascal's wager knows what that is.
Well, it's a philosophical argument presented by Blaise Pascal that, if you believe in God and it helps you get into heaven, and there is no specific effort you need to do and there is no harm in doing this, then you're better off believing in God rather than not believing in God, because there is no harm, but the benefit is infinitesimal. So if you believe that AI can harm you, well, get into AI to fix it today. But it's going to be just belief, because there is no solid proof that it actually might go rogue, acquire intelligence of its own, and hurt you.
Well, thank you so much, Alex. It's been great talking to you, and for your incredible commitment to, you've been working tirelessly on creating cures. So we're proud to have you as part of our community. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Love the cure. Again, if you got to listen to this point, you have to visit the cure.
Thank you. Thank you. And once again, well, speaking of Cure, once again, next week, I'm back in New York City at Cure, and we're going to be talking to the team behind Clinical Trials Guide and how they are reshaping the patient experience to finding and getting clinical trials. So have a great day, everybody.